we ended up calling ourselves, because I believe they started calling us that first. So TI, or targeted individual. But he filmed some guy following him around a grocery store, and he said, by the way, how much do you get? And I was rather shocked in that it was a lot of money, a lot for a no-skill job of criminal harassment. So there are people who are totally invested, and they do go to the authorities, and the authorities either tell you, oh, you're crazy, or they say, sorry, we can't help you. In fact, I went to a sheriff's department in Florida, and I told the duty officer what was going on. I said, I've called. I've tried to explain. I've sent you explanations via email, and I get basically ignored or insulted. This is going on, and I am getting health damage. A lot of us do. Vision destruction, basically bleeding in the brain, heart drying out from being cooked, all kinds of things that are very, very unique health problems that you would not or could not possibly get without being exposed to electromagnetic weapons continuously. You just wouldn't get these problems. But I went to this duty officer, told him, and he said, what is your name again? And he said, come on, follow me to the parking lot. And he went to looked like a private car, maybe his own personal sedan. And he opened the trunk and he took out a handful of folders. And he said, there you are. He said, and he opened it up and read a little bit. And he said, I'm not allowed to help you. Meaning you don't have any civil or constitutional rights. I'm not allowed to help you or take a report. Sorry, bye. What you're seeing right now is where I worked. It was the NSA Weapons and Space Directorate, and that was the project that I was on. It was to detect jammers that the Russians were actually selling the Iraqis to make our weapons during our invasion go off course, and that could have killed a lot of people. So I spent about 6 months doing those reports, and only to be punished with people trying to kill me for actually trying to claim my own work. But the electromagnetic weapons, here I will tell you something that not a lot of people know. In Florida, the electromagnetic weapons were supplied to the fusion centers by the Naval Security Group in Panama City. They are under the NSA/CSS. And I actually have a picture of one of the people who was photo stalking me from the Navy. And I have a license plate, but I can't find anybody who actually cares enough to investigate and question them as to why they're trying to help murder civilians. But they would bring over the anti-personnel size weapons, and they were bringing some bigger ones, but let's go with the anti-personnel size weapons. They would pass them out to neighbors. They would pass them out to certain people who were on schedule to stalk and harass you, like Billy, Bob, and Sue, and Joe, and William were scheduled to stalk and harass you every Tuesday morning from 8 to noon. They'd sit on the side streets if you stayed home, but if you went somewhere, they would follow you and use these anti-personnel weapons on you as you drove, or follow you into stores with them in a backpack or a large bag or something like that and aim it at you inside the store. And their policy was to try to hit you from at least 3 different directions, which was rather dangerous for some of the people in the stores, because some of those weapons were actually embedded in the car engine as well. And so if you had a V8, V6, V4, excuse me, it had the strength of the engine. So they could have killed people in the store who had like pacemakers and other delicate health conditions. But that was their protocol. That's how they did it. They wanted to hit you 24/7 as much as possible to poison your cells, wear you down, and make you die from what they hoped would look like natural causes. Now, what you're showing right here is a Raytheon Raven's Claw device, excuse me, that can actually target by frequency any of the organs in your body. I was actually sent to the ER with them targeting one of my kidneys. I originally thought that I had a kidney stone, but when I got there and waited for them to do the x-ray and get back to me, there was a doctor who came back and said, okay, here's your kidney stone. It should be out in the next week. Oh, I see you've had an organ removed. I said, No, I never have. Can you be born without whatever organ is missing? And he said, no, you can't. So this isn't your x-ray. So I surmised from that what they were doing was they were putting nano into me as a painkiller because I had an IV. And after that, my sensitivity to the directed energy weapons going through the house was much increased because what they do is that they catch and reflect back into your body the frequencies you're being hit with. And you can be hit with weaponized Wi-Fi. And I'm not going to, I can't tell you all the different types, but there is pulsed microwave, like you have heard in basically concerning the diplomats. There are a multitude of other types and variations of the weapons they have. One thing is heterodyning. Well, what is heterodyning? They can hit you with an extraordinarily high-pitched sound that sears through your brain. And heterodyning would be not just picking a frequency and hitting you from 3 different directions with it, but heterodyning would be a couple of different frequencies that really exacerbate the damage each other will give you. So that is really that's like having something sear through your head. And one of the ways that they basically lock into you gives you tinnitus. And they're saying now that tinnitus actually can cause brain damage. So they are all about the brain damage, all about destroying your life, destroying your mind, destroying your ability to testify against them.
Which goes along with saying you're crazy, which is something the NSA likes to do a lot. And of course, Karen, please continue. And would you agree with me that now everybody is being targeted through the jab and the booster systems with the mRNA, so they can target genetically and biologically almost anyone they want all the time, anytime?
I absolutely agree. I mean, I speak mostly about the electromagnetic weapons because that's what I'm being hit with. But I have spoken to hundreds of people, if not thousands, but hundreds who tell me that they also use DNA-specific poisons, gases. It sounds like it's a smorgasbord. Once you're on this list, then they're free to target you for experimentation, for non-consensual experimentation, because secretly what they've done by listing you as a terrorist is to secretly strip you of your constitutional, civil, and human rights. And if you remember, Bush said, we'll hunt you down and kill you wherever you are. We don't care, what country you're in. We reserve the right to just murder you. They have interpreted that as, hey, if we're calling them terrorists and stripping them of their rights, why kill them all at once? Why don't we just use them to experiment on and test our weapons on? I mean, after all, there is a new electromagnetic weapons war, weapons race. So why not just use it on these people who don't count? We've erased them. So we are human trafficked. They make money off of us. And I would say that not only do the contractors basically get in there and say, hey, could you just go ahead and declare like 20 people to be terrorists so we can experiment on them with this new device? But they also seem to be contracted by powerful, influential people who say, my cousin Fred, he's going to be a co-inheritor and I don't want him to live. So my rich uncle is going to die, and I don't want my cousin to have any of it. So why don't you put him as a terrorist and get rid of him? There's one woman that I met who was put on the list because she refused someone's sexual advance, and now she's on the list for life. So if people say, well, I didn't work for the government, I certainly didn't work for the intelligence community, I should be safe, it's not my problem. No, it is your problem. And it could be your mother's problem, your sister's problem, your son's problem, your grandchild's problem. So the fusion centers I've described as Trojan horses. They're supposed to be doing one thing when they are entirely doing another. They are attacking the people that they are supposed to be protecting. So the fusion centers need to be frozen, shut down, audited, and the people in the domestic terrorism unit especially need to be apprehended and questioned as terrorists. Now, I will say that there were people in my parents' neighborhood who seemed to be going house to house to house, and at any of the houses they stayed at for a long time, there seemed to be weapons that started to emanate from there. I found out those people were Fusion Center employees. and specifically FBI Annie White and Mr. Kennedy, who